This is a bit of a surprising topic to see, isn't it? We are sailing into uncharted territory with this one, but I think you'll be surprised at how funny these get. We're going to start off with the complete opposite, so before we witness all the glorious hate mail, let's look at a bonus clip sent in by someone called Mad, who's cosplaying as Guts in the Cathedral of the Deep. He's invaded a host who's in a really bad spot. You can tell he's struggling because he has barely any health and he's being eaten alive by those swamp maggots. And looks like he's pretty much out of healing too. Quick tip by the way, for anyone who fights the enemies that infect you with those leeches and worms, all you need to do is equip a torch and they'll come right off. Of course, the other thing that gets rid of them that makes a bit more sense is blood red moss clumps, which this kind-hearted invader starts dropping for him along with a few embers. Much better. The maggots successfully cured, he waves goodbye and Black Crystal's out. He then messages him saying, "Don't tell anyone that Guts has a gentle side." During a later invasion, he receives kind mail, or happy mail, I guess you could say, with a link to a YouTube video and a comment about his Guts cosplay. But what was the YouTube video he linked, you might ask? You raised me up so I could stand on. Oh, how nice. I thought I'd include this one at the start, firstly because I think the person who sent it to me completely misunderstood what this countdown was meant to be about, but I do think you're actually much more likely to receive messages like this instead of hate mail when playing Dark Souls, especially in my personal experience, so it's nice that we can start off the video with that reminder. Now, I bring more great news, everyone. Dark tales have been resurfacing from the Gothic city of Yharnam, and I think it's time we return there once more. I'm excited to announce Bloodborne top 10s are returning. I think we're going to start off with something unique to Bloodborne as well. So for the first topic, I'm suggesting top 10 Chalice Dungeon Moments. That's interesting, funny events, cool invasions, skillful duels, rare enemies, amazing boss fights. Basically, there's tons of cool stuff that goes on in these dungeons, so if you have anything that might fit, feel free to send it in to top10souls@gmail.com. Now, let's check out some hilarious hate mails and get the salt flow going at number 10. DBGT is up first, invading the Undead Burg on the Hellkite Drake Bridge, which is being overseen by a giant dad host. We're talking full Giant's armor, Zweihander, and the Mask of the Father. Oh yes. Clearly knows what he's doing to an extent. He's swinging away at angles with the greatsword, which was a technique in the first game called dead angling. What that did was the damage would bypass shields, and also it made it harder to parry. Speaking of parries, he gets one off. But this guy's quick in the menus. Another mark of an experienced player. He switches to the red tearstone ring, boosting his damage at low health, and sprints in for a backstab. The best strategy, arguably, that exists. Then followed up by essentially a chain backstab. So you might be able to see now why the host might get annoyed. Especially when you remember what his username is. They end up having 6 more fights in total, and after each one, the invader receives a number of direct messages which accuse him of lots of things, starting with being a scrub, and then also having no skill. He relies too much on latency and rings. From this point on, every single time they fight each other, and DBGT is about to win, the host just disconnects. And he's very proud of that fact too. As he says, he's using crying ring plus a disconnecting ring, which apparently is the new meta. At least he's self-aware, I suppose. Wolf ring is also off limits, we learned today. It is a very good ring, there's no denying it. Poise in Dark Souls 1 was very relevant, but you have to remember you also only had 2 ring slots, and one of those was almost certainly the Ring of Favor and Protection, so realistically, with only 1 ring slot free, you always had to sacrifice something. He disconnects for the 6th time before death and taunts the invader yet again, bringing up the fact that if he disconnects, the invader gets no souls, as it's not counted as a victory. And then goes on another huge rant about how he over-relies on poise. A fascinating lesson to be learnt here. I'm sure you'd all agree. At least we all now know that rings and poise are actually illegal. At number 9, we have the Great Talal 542, who has a duel in the Kiln of Flame arena, which his opponent also decides to pull the plug and disconnects when he loses. Anyway, they meet each other later in Anor Londo as 2 invaders where he defeats him again. And that's when the salty message train begins, where he's accused of being a dirty player with a bad connection. His opponent says he hates him with all his heart, which if you ask me, it seems a little much. I can understand being a little upset, but hating someone you've never met is a bit over the top. But it goes on as Talal replies saying, "Who is salty now?" And the response is beyond amazing. He says, "It's more than salt, it's actual hate." Again, I guess you gotta give him credit for his honesty. Number 8, get hyped. We've got some voicemail hate coming up. This one is strange for me to watch because I feel partially responsible for this. This happened in my server. So what I've noticed is that sometimes people get together in my Discord server voice channels and they'll form groups and play together. So I get sent this 20-minute long clip and there's a few arguments that occur.
Can you f***ing not?
But I'll skip to the best part. The absolute peak of the Salt Mountain happens when one of the players gets very annoyed at Doomsday's use of the 4-pronged plow. I don't know about you, but that's the absolute last weapon I would have a problem with. But one of the guys gets so angry he actually puts his controller down.
Easy money!
I hate you, man. You're so f***ing disgusting.
Bullshit!
Spawn plunge me? Shut up.
Karma. That was karma.
F***ing stop, man! There he
Stop, you homo Szechuan.
Just because you're a little lonely, sad little kid that has nothing to do all day except to do that.
Guys, I'm sensing some salt in this room. I think we need to chill out a little bit.
Yeah, you guys, where are you guys? Are you guys doing some fucking ganking?
But at the end of the day, I'm very happy with this one because we have a nice wholesome ending. The rest of the group works to calm things down and remind everyone about the important things in life.
Guys, I think we all just need to have a group hug, alright, and say our prayers to Jesus
Some
Christ.
people here needing to use
Everybody
this.
hug your...
Fighter PL probably sent in the most hate mail out of everyone this time. In terms of quantity, he does seem to be the Salt King. He's testing out an anti-twink build, which is basically a twink build which kills other twink builds, if you think about it. Basically, it's when you get late game powerful gear at a low level, giving you a big advantage. Anyway, he invades a Havel monster, who is the perfect stereotype in this case. I mean, the Havel armor set isn't available until Archdragon Peak, and his Ringed Knight Spear isn't obtainable until the Ringed City. I have to say, the amount of times this Havel guy walks into parries is astonishing. After being parried to death twice, he points down at Fighter the third time. He's not giving up, I suppose, which is good. This is a lot better than disconnecting at least. 2 seconds later though, he gets parried and ring swapped, riposted, and then golf ball swung into the air, which as we know is the ultimate disrespect. I think it's 100 points for bouncing an Estus Chugger. Not even sure which attempt we're on right now, but I'm starting to think maybe having good gear and equipment doesn't make you good. Ah, and there's a TV out the window. We knew it was going to happen eventually. The messages make this though. The hypocrisy here is too funny. He accuses Fighter of being a twink, to which he rightly points out that he's clearly got overpowered gear as well, if not more late game. And of course we then have a mature, adult discussion without name calling or insults. Number 6, we have the Sticky Bandit, who's a guy I respect a lot for playing the game while commentating simultaneously, which I find pretty hard to do. He invades someone in the Upper Lothric Castle, who he definitely outmatches. They have a drawn out fight circling the courtyard, and it ends in the Sticky Bandit's favour, in style.
Oh, can I go for a jumping attack? Oh, that's awesome. Okay, it was a nice finish.
So a rather fruity message is sent across, against someone who has a big problem with poise, in Dark Souls 3, no less. We live in truly amazing times.
Oh, can you believe it? Well, this is my friend, Addy. I had a nice little battle with him a little while ago. He sent me a charming message.
He ends up invading the same player, the guy who sent him rage mail earlier, so this is going to be very personal.
Oh, I see, this is what he's doing.
He ran all the way to the boss fog to summon a phantom. Oh dear.
To summon people in. Oh, from Addy, from Ad himself. Oh, classic. He's throwing the dung pies at me, yes.
It turns out to be one of those stalemate battles where the host camps the boss fog, taunting and summoning help. Still some nice plays to see though, such as switching to the Sun Princess ring to gradually regenerate health. Don't see that often, but yeah, if you can tell it's going to be a long fight, you might as well save Estus, so that's smart thinking.
Get my healing up, I want to go.
He's playing the long game. He recognises he's on the back foot, so he's getting in the damage where he can and being efficient with resources. If he can just use up their healing resources, then even if they run through the boss fog, they'll be too weak for the boss, so he wins either way.
But is that enough? Oh, that's broken! One hit broken, Tears of Denial! Hit 2 is enough! Okay, that's great, that's cool. Panic roll away.
It's getting exciting now. The Sunbro is left alone and taken out, while the host rushes back far too late to save him, and then it's back and forth with the host, both of them using up their Estus, getting very low on resources, and it looks bad. No other way to put it, things start to look hopeless.
I think the end is unfortunately nigh.
But we shouldn't underestimate the Sticky Bandit though. He's got a few remaining tricks up his sleeve in the form of some outside help.
No, that's nice to see. Oh, he's come in, he's overcommitted. Oh, he's overcommitted! He wanted to get the monk. The Lothric Knight came in, and that's great.
I can't believe how much is on the line here. It's been a roller coaster for sure, but one way or another, this has to finish.
Oh, he had. I didn't even realise he had summoned someone else. So bollocks.
No, seriously though, this is actually the final stand. Raise your Estus for our boy, Sticky Bandit.
But this is good. Look at them, they're backing up now. And he's not waving anymore. Oh, he goes for it. That was the wrong time. That was the wrong time to do it. He went for his weapon. Oh, I'm running around the room. I'm running around.
I've got to give so much credit for that. It might not come across on this cut down version, but the full invasion was definitely a mental endurance test.
Of course there was going to be another message. So seconds later, I got this. You got a lot to live up to. Your dirty parents raise a bit of trash. They must be so disappointed, too scared to fight. Baby. It's just perfect. Oh, it's so tasty. It's just so tasty. This is like crack. This is just the best thing, honestly. It's so good.
Adam Barker is coming in at number 5 with his very first hate mail. It's a bit special for reasons that will soon be revealed. He's put down his purple sign as a mound maker looking for some duels. They have a fight and the host starts healing constantly and then goes on a big sprint around the start of the swamp area. I think it's as simple as this host thought he was ready to summon an invader, but at this point in time he's panicking a bit and perhaps wasn't as ready as he thought, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've all been there. But perhaps the difference is, not all of us feel the need to send people hate mail afterwards.
Dude, kid, you're a fucking joke. Get the fuck off this game, dude. You're so fucking bad. Sitting there using undead hunter charms, and then you're gonna parry me, run behind me, backstab me. Like, you do the cheapest shit just to win a fucking fight. Get the fuck out, dude. Fucking trash, kid.
I always find it so enlightening to hear what strategies people seem to get enraged with. This time it's undead hunter charms, parrying, running behind someone, and backstabbing of course, can't forget that one. Number 4, Cryptic Virus is brawling in the Pontiff Cathedral, known as one of the most chaotic PvP hotspots in the game because it's a huge battleground where plenty of different covenants come to fight for dominance. Cryptic here is loyal to Aldrich and he's hunting down the host and his summons who trespass through these cathedral grounds. He's later joined by a mound maker, a mad purple spirit, making it a 2v2, which then quickly turns into a 3v2 as another Aldrich supporter joins the fight. One of those rare times when the invader numbers replenish quicker than the host and his summons. With so many people fighting in a chaotic mess, I find it odd that you then pick on one person to get personally angry with. But of course, what do I know, clearly this wouldn't be here otherwise. The host wasn't happy with Cryptic for his offensive point down gesture, didn't like his healing either. Oh man, looks like we have some conflict here. Who ganked who? Apparently they all ganked each other. So basically, the invading team ganked better. He who ganks last, ganks the hardest, as they say. You healed enough to fill a river, chug boy! I spam heals, you spam spells. I see no difference. You see people, these are the real crippling philosophical issues that are facing the world today. And just look at this masterful poetry to follow it up. I've never understood the point of a point down. It's pointless, don't you think? Oh, he's a genius. Number 3, these two friends are playing together while role-playing as Dark Souls 3 characters. So this guy is Lion Knight Albert, and his friend is the Daughter of Crystal Kremheld. And what ends up happening is they get invaded 2 minutes in, the invader rolls past their combined attack and then sends them a party invite.
Player invited me to a party.
So you guys just gonna keep yanking, or what's the deal? Because you know that was pretty trashy. You know, I'm coming over to the spawn point, knowing exactly where I'm gonna spawn in. You're just R1 spamming me to death. Like, come on, guys, get good.
He's not happy. Big plot twist. I know. He doesn't like how they're ganking him, or their excuse that they aren't ganking, they're simply cosplaying. Doesn't like that one either.
There we go. The character names are on there. We're using the correct weapons. You're an obstruction and you're in our f***ing way, so we're removing you. We don't want you here. We didn't ask you to come here.
Aside from that aspect, one thing I feel I have to point out here is surely if you're invading, especially a place like this, wouldn't you kind of expect to encounter more than one player? They end up fighting anyway, but there's still plenty of taunting and baiting, and the Silver Knights join in at certain points as well.
So you got any particular reason why you want to invite us to a party apart from just being a c***, or just being a total dick just for the sake of it?
Me? No, I just think that people that gank, especially people that, you know, are experienced in this game, are garbage. Ha! You piece of shit. Oh my god. Oh, god damn it, you're the host, alright. I'll fucking murder you now.
I think you also realise how seriously they're taking this and how much pride is on the line here when the invader kills one of them, because he thinks it's the host he's killed, and you can hear the pure excitement and relief in his voice. Quick disappointment when he realises that was just a summon, but he's confident. He thinks he can take on the 1v1.
I'm over here now. I'm over here. Come on. I'm over here. Oh, you got me!
Why are you trying to PvP people who are cosplaying? This is not even like our proper setups.
Good job.
Oh, look at that! Piece of fucking shit.
And that's that. The host wins the final showdown. And this is where the salt truly begins.
Weapons
What
out.
a useless tosser. No, I can't even beat a cosplayer using his
Alright,
invading
later
setup.
tools, get good, stop ganking,
Learn to play the game. Why do you invite me to the booth? I told you you were fucking wow.
Alright, back to Dark Souls 1, we have Victoire invading in Anor Londo. And I have to say, this is the only clip in the countdown where I'd say hate mail might even be justified. Just take a look at what he does when he finds this inexperienced host all by himself. Oh no, oh no, he actually did it, the absolute madman. He made the poor guy throw a fireball at the NPC Knight Solaire, and now he's hostile forever. Doesn't matter if he disconnects, doesn't matter if he reloads the game, Solaire is still going to try and kill him. Oh, the disconnect as well. I mean, this one is physically painful. I actually feel sorry for him. So here's his message. F off, how dare you make me hit him? And yeah, all of us here have accidentally attacked an NPC before. It is part of the Dark Souls experience, I think you could argue, so I know it sucks, but hey, at least it wasn't a blacksmith. It could have been worse. And we come to number 1. Hands down the clip that made me laugh the hardest when I saw it, so see what you think. The main is hosting duels in the Ulasil township when he gets invaded 6 times in 7 minutes by the same player. And if you've watched my top 10s before, you might recognise what these 2 bits of text here represent. In Dark Souls 1, the community made their own anti-hacker tool, and lots of players installed it for protection. Now if the text is red, it means the player you've connected with is cheating, and it also reveals their stats, which in this case we can see this invader has modified his stats to 900 plus for each one, while still only being soul level 135. And seeing as how the max level for each stat is 99, it's pretty obvious that something's not right here. So with the Watchdog tool, he could just kick him out the game straight away, but instead he goes along with it and tries to beat him anyway, even with the unfair advantage. I think he dies once, and then after that he beats him every time, which is impressive. My favourite one is when he waits for him the 4th or 5th time with the Ring of Fog on to catch him off guard. This is a bit embarrassing to watch, I know, but you really wouldn't think it would be profitable to just farm a hacker over and over again, but apparently it is. Anyway, it's time for the ultimate hacker salt mail, and it's so hypocritical it's actually painful, but here we go. He says, "You're not being honest with me because you're not giving me time to buff my weapon." Which is crazy, because I feel like it might be a teensy bit more dishonest to have stats like his. So the main makes what I would assume is a very good point, and points out that he's hacked his stats. But the guy ignores this, and says,
"I must buff my Zvihander."
And now, drumroll please, the absolute best excuse I've ever seen goes to this guy. You won't find this kind of logic anywhere else, I'm telling you now.
Do you want to know why I cheat?
No.
Because I'm Italian.
If you want to pause it, you can look at all the rest of the conversation, because it is a bit of a gold mine. And so, a reminder, we have 2 new top 10s coming out. Top 10 Chalice Dungeon Moments for Bloodborne. Get hyped for the big return. And as for the next Dark Souls top 10, we're doing cosplays. This is a topic where you can get really creative and design a popular fictional character, role plays, themes, and all that fun stuff. Please describe where your character is from, and what it is, and all that jazz. Info's in the description. Thanks for watching.